The movement for 15 has achieved its first major victory. The Seattle City Council's Minimum Wage Committee just voted for $15 an hour. On Monday, June 2nd, we expect this will be voted on by the full council and pass into law. Today is a historic day for low-wage workers, for the labor movement, and for anyone who believes, as I do, that no one who works should have to live in poverty. Protests and strikes of low-wage workers, the grassroots campaigning of 15 Now, of the labor movement, and of many activists, all of us together forced business and Seattle's political establishment to act. We forced them to lift 100,000 low-wage workers in Seattle out of poverty, to transfer nearly $3 billion to workers at the bottom of the wage scale over the next 10 years. This has come after decades of wealth being transferred almost exclusively from the bottom towards the wealthiest. As Occupy Wall Street said, the banks got bailed out, we got sold out. We need to be clear about what happened here in Seattle that led us to this point. 15 has not been won at the bargaining table as the so-called sensible compromise between workers and businesses. It was not the result of the generosity of corporations or their Democratic Party representatives in city government. What was voted on in the City Council was a reflection of what workers won on the streets over this last year. Let this be our guide. Future victories will also depend on the organization of working people fighting for our interests. We must recognize, as has been on display these last months, that our interests are not shared by big business. At every stage of the struggle, business has sought to undermine our efforts, and we have to have the courage to stand against it. Today we set an example that will empower workers all over the US and around the world. There are a number of corporate loopholes in this legislation. I have urged and fought hard inside the City Council and outside to close them. You saw in the meeting today the amendments to include a youth wage, a training wage, and unnecessary and unexplained delay in implementation. All of these are amendments that were brought by council members, but these are amendments that business wanted. We have so many business representatives in City Hall. Let's be clear that it was our movement that brought 15 to the table in Seattle. The Democratic Party establishment and corporate politicians also played a role. Of course, let's give them their due. Led by Mayor Murray, they brought business to the table to water down what workers have been fighting for. We have had to push back every day. We have had to push back against the endless wish list of big business proposals. And we are going to have to continue to come back to some of these questions in the near future, to get rid of the tip penalty, to shorten the decade-long phase-in, to get rid of training wages, and to implement a real enforcement mechanism. But for the moment, let me stress, the Select Committee of the Seattle City Council just voted to become the first city in the United States to institute a $15 minimum wage for all of the city's workers. This will be the highest minimum wage in the nation. As the first Socialist City Council member in this city in more than 100 years, rallying for this demand in my election campaign and fighting together with so many activists in 15 Now, labor and community groups, I am proud to say we pushed hard for this historic step forward, and we made it happen in historically record time. My organization, Socialist Alternative, was the backbone of this struggle. We have provided an analysis and a strategy. First, to win this important seat at City Hall for a socialist, and then to immediately turn it into a tool of organizing. Launching the 15 Now campaign, not only in Seattle, but in many cities around the country. Please go to socialistalternative.org and join us If you are inspired by what we have done, we need you to be part of the movement. The whole process of negotiations has demonstrated that we cannot rely on the Democratic Party to push for workers' interests, not even to push back against the Tea Party or Republican attacks. If we want working class interests represented in the political arena, workers and youth need a party of our own, an organized force that will fight for our needs. Look at the Washington state level. The Democrats played with the idea of raising the minimum wage. There was talk of raising it statewide to $12 an hour, but they could not even bring it out of committee. The Speaker of the House, Frank Chop, was not able to get anything done on this issue, not a single cent increase for the state's workers. And look at what activists of 15 Now and Socialist Alternative and the labor movement have accomplished in the city of Seattle. One Socialist council member in Seattle is able to change more than the Speaker of the House in Washington state. This is one of the reasons why I am excited that 15 Now organizing director Jess Spear is challenging the corporate politician Frank Chop in the November election, and we need to get involved in this campaign to win another socialist voice for ourselves in the state. I also urge everybody to join us for a rally at 1 p.m. on Monday, June 2nd, to make sure that our voice is heard, that while we support this historic move and that we have fought for it ourselves, we do not agree with the watering down of the proposal that has come in the form of delays, youth wage and training wage and tip credit. I urge you all to join us at this rally at 1 p.m. on Monday, and please join us. Let's pack the chambers at 2 p.m. at City Hall when the final vote will be carried out. And I would like Jess Spear to add a few words. Woo! Woo!
The career of Frank Chop, sponsored by the job killers at Boeing and other corporations, can be ended in November. This campaign will be a huge opportunity to further the discussion on inequality, of how capitalism has failed the 99%, and take a major step toward building a real party of working class people. Our success here today reveals the potential to create such a force all over the United States. I urge each and everyone to get organized and help us further strengthen this movement, to spread this success nationally. Check out 15now.org to donate, get involved, and help us to move forward. This struggle costs a lot of money to push back against corporate America, to push back against all those loopholes that Councilmember Sawant just talked about. It's going to cost a lot more to spread this nationally. But this is our chance to tackle poverty and massive income inequality. Get involved. Please donate now. We also encourage everyone to get involved in your trade union, in 15 Now, and defend all workers' interests. These are the steps that are needed to move forward. We could not have achieved this without the initiative of the fast food workers, starting in New York with the Fight for 15. It could not have been done without labor continuously campaigning for 15. The efforts of unions to win 15 in CTAC last year were decisive, together with Kshama's election campaign, to prepare the ground to win 15 this year in Seattle. Over the past months, in every neighborhood in Seattle, the grassroots movement 15 Now organized and mobilized for a $15 an hour minimum wage. Groups met weekly, held rallies and conferences to debate strategy and put it into action. Alongside the labor movement, they campaigned energetically for the best possible minimum wage in Seattle. This is how we won. But of course, we've had a lot of debates about our strategy within labor. We should draw important conclusions from this struggle. Over decades, too many of the labor leaders tried to appease big business to defend workers' rights. This concessionary approach just encouraged the bosses to go after each and every past game we won. In Seattle, it encouraged establishment city council members to move business-friendly amendment after business-friendly amendment, and to pass them. That's why my organization, Socialist Alternative, and I urged in this battle to not follow this path, but to fully throw all the weight behind labor, behind a drive to activate people, to use this weight for signature gathering as an organizing tool, to educate hundreds of thousands while speaking to them, including them in neighborhood action groups, bringing people together. When business pushed hard to water down the mayor's proposal, we pushed back and started to collect signatures to put a real 15 on the ballot in November. And as you saw, we showed the City Council we've collected 10,000, and there are more that we're getting from people that have collected them. And this is still not over. As Councilmember Sawant said, the full council meeting on Monday will take a final vote. We encourage everybody to join us at a rally at 1 p.m. so that we can strip the training wages that were added, the unnecessary 4-month delay, asking workers to wait 4 more months and live in poverty with no explanation for it. So I encourage everybody to join us on Monday. Let's keep fighting to get rid of those corporate loopholes until the very end. Woo!